Welcome to the Nepali Diaspora Network podcast. You are listening to your essential guide, where we really extract the most crucial updates and insights for the global Nepalese community from our latest digest. And we have a powerful deep dive for you today, one that's really defined by some sharp contrasts.
That's absolutely right. When you look at the source material, it paints this picture of Nepal simultaneously facing this deep internal distress, but also achieving pretty significant external recognition.
So two very different stories happening at once.
Exactly. We're going to be unpacking what is a really critical moment. It's defined by an environmental crisis. We'll get into the damage from the unseasonal rains and some major financial strain back home. But then against that backdrop, you have this strong progress in global connectivity, institutional recognition, and some key wins for Nepalese abroad.
Okay, let's get into it. And I think we have to start with that harsh reality. The severe economic headwinds. It seems to be coming from two massive forces, climate damage and financial vulnerability. Let's talk about the agricultural crisis that struck Koshi province.
Yeah, it was just devastating. It's almost a textbook case of climate volatility. You had this persistent, unseasonal rainfall in the third week of October, and it just delivered a catastrophic blow.
And the figures, they're pretty stark.
Heartbreakingly so.
Yeah.
The total damage to the paddy crop alone, it reached a staggering Rs 2.5 billion.
Just in Koshi province.
Just in that one province.
Wow. Rs 2.5 billion. I mean, that translates immediately into suffering for thousands and thousands of farm families. The sources highlight that Morang was hit the hardest, right? With losses around Rs 781 million, and then Sansari followed.
Yes, Sansari with over Rs 453 million in losses. But this isn't just local news, is it?
No, not at all.
Far from it. I mean, when your primary staple crop takes a hit like that, it affects the entire national economy. The national impact is projected to show paddy production declining by about 5%.
5%? What does that actually mean in terms of volume?
We're talking about roughly 300,000 metric tons nationwide. And a figure like that has direct implications for food security, for inflation, moving forward.
And as if that economic pressure wasn't enough, we then have to turn to the financial sector, where some vulnerability has been brewing for a while. I'm talking about non-performing loans, or NPLs.
This is where the pressure point truly crystallizes. We're seeing a really significant rise in bad debt. The average NPL for the 20 major commercial banks reached 4.86%. Now that's up from 4.04% a year prior.
Okay, so it's climbing.
It is, but here's the major alarm bell. For the development banks, the Class C banks that often lend to smaller businesses, their average NPL ratio climbed close to 10%, specifically 9.86%.
A near 10% bad debt ratio. That's terrifying. What does that percentage mean practically for the economy and for the average business owner?
It means risk, and risk means frozen capital. This surge in bad debt forced the banks to allocate an additional Rs 11 billion just for provisioning.
In the first quarter alone.
So this isn't just a statistical headache, it's a direct constraint on future bank lending. If banks have to put money aside for bad loans, they become extremely cautious about issuing new credit. And that makes recovery even harder for all those small and medium enterprises.
So given this double shock of climate damage and credit strain, the economic outlook is understandably pretty cautious.
It is. The World Bank is now projecting Nepal's real GDP growth will slow sharply, down to 2.1% this fiscal year. And they explicitly attribute that slowdown to the recent unrest and the political instability that has just eroded investor confidence.
That said, there is some official action being taken. Finance Minister Rameshwar Prasad Kanal announced an integrated business recovery plan. Does that plan offer a genuine lifeline, do you think?
Well, it's an attempt to restore morale. The plan includes offering targeted grants, some tax exemptions, and operational support. But I think perhaps the more critical advice is coming from the Nepal Rashtra Bank, the NRB.
The central bank.
Right. They're urging businesses to leverage the currently favorable monetary situation.
Which is?
Well, we have lower interest rates, we have abundant liquidity, and foreign reserves are exceeding Rs 2.2 trillion. So the NRB's message is pretty clear. The money is there. Use it to encourage production and employment growth now, before these economic headwinds get any stronger.
So we've established the economic headaches are severe. But often, internal crises like this, they catalyze a demand for accountability. So let's look at the political fallout, especially from the Gen Z movement that rocked the country.
That movement carries a very heavy cost. The government has acknowledged that 2,572 people were injured during the September protests.
Wow.
Yeah. And they've established a technical committee that's tasked with classifying those injuries to issue identity cards. It's a necessary step toward providing support, of course, but it's also a very solemn reminder of the price of public dissent.
And politically, it seems the focus is now shifting to electoral readiness, with the next House of Representatives election scheduled for March 5, 2026. This has spurred a big push for reform from the top.
Indeed. Prime Minister Sushila Karki is publicly demanding a fundamental shift. She's urging for political consensus on implementing interconstituency voting. And this is a really crucial practical point.
Okay, so why is that particular change so important for the average person and especially for the diaspora listening to this?
Because forcing voters to travel all the way back to their home constituencies is, frankly, extraordinarily expensive. It's logistically complex, and it fosters corruption through vote buying and patronage.
Right.
So the PM is arguing that cutting those unnecessary costs and barriers is essential if the government wants to credibly respond to the demands for clean politics that were raised by these recent youth movements.
And you can see that demand for alternatives reflected in the new political parties that are registering to contest. You've got the Gatisha Loktantrik Party and Daran Mayor Harkasampang's Shram Sanskriti Party. It really shows the political marketplace is widening.
Exactly. And meanwhile, accountability measures are proceeding in some unexpected places. In a very high-profile move, the Kathmandu Metropolitan City, the KMC, demolished illegal structures on Nepal Scouts land in Lineshar.
And this action targeted a company associated with an NC leader, Deepak Khadka, who reportedly owed over a past $35 million in unpaid rent.
Yeah, dating back years. And for the Nepalese diaspora, who often critique the lack of rule of law and the impunity back home, KMC reclaiming this land from a powerful political figure sends a huge symbolic signal. It shows a commitment to recovering public assets, suggesting that maybe change is actually possible.
But that positive message contrasts so sharply with the political tension brewing over in Madhesh province, specifically in Janakpurdam, right after the sudden appointment of Chief Minister Suraj Kumar Yadav.
Yeah, tension is running extremely high there. The opposition is alleging that the province chief violated constitutional procedure. They say he ignored Article 1C(a)(2), which is the standard way you appoint a CM by inviting a majority coalition, and instead used 1C(d)(8)(3).
Which is for appointing a CM who doesn't have an immediate majority.
Exactly. So the opposition is claiming the ruling party essentially cheated the process, appointing their leader under a technicality rather than proving they actually have the support.
And they're not just letting it go.
Not at all. This opposition alliance, which claims to have a strong 74 assembly members, they intend to challenge the whole appointment in the Supreme Court. So the political instability in Madhesh is far from over.
Okay, now let's pivot away from the internal conflict and look at some of the external achievements, the things that are strengthening the global links for the Nepalese diaspora. And starting with financial connectivity, there is huge news for anyone sending money home.
This is genuinely significant. The Nepal Rashtra Bank has approved a partnership between the global fintech company Lemfi and Isoa Money Transfer.
So why does this matter so much to our listener who might be in, say, North America or Europe?
Because it facilitates low-cost, reliable, and convenient international money transfers directly into Nepal. This is for Nepalese residents living across North America and Europe, including the UK, Canada, and the US. Remittances are the lifeblood of the economy, so anything that makes that process cheaper and smoother is a direct benefit to every diaspora family.
And speaking of making things smoother, travelers also received a major diplomatic win. Hong Kong has removed a pretty significant travel barrier.
Yes, this is great news. The mandatory transit visa requirement for Nepalese passport holders. It's been removed for anyone transiting through Hong Kong International Airport. That's effective November 15.
And that came after years of effort.
Years of sustained diplomatic effort, yeah. It instantly makes transiting through one of Asia's busiest hubs far more convenient for Nepalese traveling between continents.
On the trade front, infrastructure developments are also moving forward. Nepal and India signed a letter of exchange amending the Transit Treaty Protocol.
This is a boost for multimodal commerce. It specifically strengthens rail trade connectivity through the Jugbani-Bharatnagara rail link. It facilitates the direct movement of containerized and bulk cargo. So effectively, it's creating more efficient corridors from Indian ports right to the Nepal customs yard near Bharatnagar. It's a vital step in transforming Nepal from being landlocked to truly landlinked.
But we do have to contrast this progress with a recurring operational issue at Tribhuvan International Airport, TIA.
It's frustrating because it just undercuts all the other progress. A technical fault in the runway's airfield lighting system recently caused a 4-hour closure at TIA. But here's the problem. Instead of using Nepal's two alternative international airports in Baihawa or Pokhara, international flights were diverted to Delhi and Lucknow.
Which really shows that while we've built these alternative airports, we haven't fully capacitated them yet. I mean, if they can't even serve as reliable emergency hubs, it just underscores a persistent planning gap.
It does. We really need to see those alternatives utilized to prove their worth.
Let's turn now to some inspiring social and cultural developments, particularly in health system recognition. And we have to celebrate Nepal's female community health volunteers, the FCHVs.
They're absolute heroes. They won the WHO Southeast Asia Regions Award for Public Health Champion. And this award, it recognizes their transformative, low-cost, high-impact model, especially in maternal and child health. It's globally acknowledged as a unique and effective public health model.
That is huge recognition on the world stage, and so well-deserved. But we hear they're still debating incentives back home. Isn't that the classic irony of Nepal? Celebrated globally while being undervalued internally.
Unfortunately, yes. While the government discusses modernizing their roles and establishing permanent support, the core debate still centers on inadequate incentives and compensation. The spirit of volunteerism is strong, but given their dedication and their workload, many FCHVs report dissatisfaction with the current financial reimbursement.
Shifting to innovation, Nepal is embracing the digital era. We have the inauguration of the National AI Center within the Ministry of Communications and Information Technology. But perhaps the most significant news for aspiring diaspora students is a breakthrough in financing.
This truly democratizes opportunity. A U.S.-based company, Empower Financing, is now offering Nepali postgraduate students collateral-free loans up to $100,000 to study abroad.
Collateral-free is the key phrase there. So how are they qualifying these students without requiring family property?
They assess students based on their university admission, their field of study, and their future income potential. This just removes a massive barrier for talented young Nepalese whose families might not have property wealth to pledge. It makes international education accessible based purely on merit and potential.
Finally, let's look to the Himalayas, where there are simultaneous developments in safety innovation and, well, regrettable tragedy.
On the safety side, there's some really exciting progress. They're developing a safer, alternative climbing route, the Nubsi route, which bypasses the perilous Khumbu icefall. And since the icefall is responsible for about a quarter of all Everest fatalities, this alternative, even though it's only 200 meters longer, could genuinely revolutionize mountaineering safety. It offers a predictable path.
However, this positive innovation is contrasted by a tragic surge in domestic trekking-related deaths.
It's a really sobering detail. Authorities are reporting a sharp increase in fatalities, largely among domestic tourists. And it's due to altitude sickness and people simply ignoring basic safety guidelines. Many Nepalese trekkers, they underestimate the mountains they feel so familiar with, and they attempt these rapid, exhausting ascents without proper acclimatization, a risk that is proving fatal.
Before we wrap up our deep dive, just a quick resource message for the Nepalese diaspora, particularly for those of you residing in the UK.
Yeah, if you're looking for local resources, whether it's for housing, finding jobs, checking community events, or locating Nepali businesses in the UK, make sure you check out balaya.uk. It's a community-focused classifieds platform that's really designed to help you connect locally.
So this week's digest, it really paints a complex, contradictory picture. You have these deep challenges from the climate crisis and political decay back home, yet at the same time, definite progress on critical infrastructure and undeniable community-level achievements globally.
The sources really highlight a fundamental tension in the national psyche, what some of the commentary refers to as a culture of denial. The nation often attributes its failures to external forces, ignoring the internal corruption, the mismanagement, the lack of accountability. It reminds us of that profound reflection. Civilizations rarely fall by murder, they die by suicide.
That's a powerful thought to end on, especially for those of us looking in from the outside.
Well, the crucial question for the diaspora, based on everything we've reviewed today, is this. Can the physical distance from Nepal provide the necessary perspective and the love to inspire the courageous, honest, and dignified reform that's required back home? That is the ultimate challenge.
A question certainly worth reflecting upon. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. For the full newsletter, additional resources, and to keep up with all the stories we discussed today, please visit nepalidiaspora.net. We'll see you next time.